Thanks, Mary. Give me the thumbs up, that's good. New career as an audio person, that's good. I like it. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for coming to the 2019 Pathways of Hope Annual Community Meeting. Thank you very much, all of you, for being here. I just wanted to take a second to talk about what the purpose of this meeting is and why it's important to Pathways and our mission to end hunger and homelessness in North Orange County. We take the, I guess I'm going to have background music while I do this, which is, I guess I can dance a little bit too if you want, have some fun with it. One of the things that we think is very important as a staff, as a board of directors, as a group of people, is the ability to communicate out about what our work is to the community. So what we do with your personal investments, with your time, with your resources, with your partnerships. We have all kinds of folks in this room, everyone from service provider partners, members of our board of directors. We have donors in this room. We have people who are community servants in the political arena. All of you have some kind of vested interest in Pathways of Hope and in ending hunger and homelessness in North Orange County. And this is our opportunity to speak back to all y'all about the work we are doing, because we want to be open about that work, talk with you about that work, and create more opportunities to do more of this work to help serve this community that we all love and share together. So that's what we're doing today. So it's going to be pretty exciting. So we're pretty much on time, maybe a little bit behind. So I'm going to get off the stage here and let Nishta Mohendra, our director of programs, come up and talk about some of our work we did in 2018.
Thanks for the warm welcome. I wish the sun was out too. But what we do at Pathways is focusing on ending homelessness and hunger. And those are the two main focuses that we hope to do all our work around. So what I'm going to be talking about are some of the achievements that we've made over the last year. The first and foremost is we helped end homelessness for 521 people by offering them shelter services. Thank you. It both makes me happy and sad that we need that kind of work in so many people, but we're doing it. And I just want to point out that there were 315 children of those 521 people that we served. Of those, how many got permanently housed is 258. And that might not seem big, but that's every single story that translated into people going into their own houses and living in their own places. And 92% maintained that housing. That's a big one. We help people move on. Thanks, David. We help people move on and move into their apartments, provide the supportive services, but how about people sustaining that? And 92%, 238 people managed to live on their own without our help anymore. We're always around, but yes. Talking about ending hunger and food, we helped offer nutritional meals to 3,921 people, of which 2,400 approximately were adults, and the rest of it were all children. Which translates into actually offering that big number up on the screen of food on every given year. And that's possible through this amazing machinery of working and collaborating with different partners, different grocery stores, food banks, and making sure that we have food on the shelves, all the donations, all the food drives that I know a lot of you help with. That's what this translates into. One aspect of our work that for all the regulars in the room who came back the second year around, who remember that last year we tried to start focusing our work around prevention, and that is to enable people not to fall into homelessness. And what we did on that is we helped 94 people escape without even experiencing homelessness. So folks living in their own houses, doubly housed, there's housing instability, and they're able to not even, access a shelter. There's no need to, and we help them through financial services. So of the 94 people, 62 of them were children, and they were able to not at all be living out on the streets because of that effort. An important data point, I think, in reflection internally we thought to report out was the average household size is 2.5. So 2.5 people per household. That means the family sizes are not running as big or as much, And there are a lot of single adults who need that kind of help. And I'm really happy to share that income becomes a huge indicator and determinant of the work that we do. The only way someone can continue to live is if they're able to pay for those, utilities, pay for the rent. And so of all the folks that we helped, the 94 of them, 99% managed to either increase their income or maintain it. That brings me to the end of reporting a quick snapshot of what program does and all the services that we offer at Pathways of Hope. And I now have the opportunity to introduce to you a testimonial from one of the lives that we were able to make an impact on and contribute to. This helps give a face to what homelessness looks like. So please turn your seats if you need to, or focus on the screen behind me, and you'll have an opportunity to hear the story and journey of Leticia.
Ronnie, I know this is a little.
Or we watch sports.
I will tell you, technology usually gives up when you need it. We'll get there. Leticia started off her journey with us when she accessed the services at our food distribution site, which serves as one of the navigation centers. So she was struggling, she walked right in, had 2 kids, and was really at the end of all her resources. Did not know who to turn to, and that's where her journey started. From there on, she got connected to our emergency shelter, and good to report is that she's living in her own apartment right now, in Fullerton, actually.
My name is Leticia and I was helped by Pathways. Yeah, I was homeless and they opened a great door to me. So I got injured, so I went on disability, but the disability stopped. And I was only surviving with my youngest daughter's father. He was helping me out to pay rent and whatever he could do. But then his hours got cut out, so he was able to help me like he used to. I went to my daughter's but for us. So I called my social worker to help me with homeless assistance. So they put me in a hotel. I went back from hotel to hotel. So I remember it was so ugly, so nasty, it smelled so bad. One time I remember when I went to pick her up to school, I said, Jessie, hurry up, it's time to go home. She goes, you go, I hotel room at home. I don't know. It's not that ugly, we have a place to sleep. So I went to a hotel, and then like 16 days after I was in the hotel, Rosa called me, and she goes, Leticia, will you come to a shelter? We have the room. I go, yeah, but I said, what kind of shelter is that? I was thinking like those big rooms with a lot of beds. I go, I want to take my daughter like just anywhere. She goes, oh Lord, they're beautiful. And I call social service, I go, I don't need a hotel anymore. So she set me an appointment, and then she said, you're going to see Tamika, and you're going to talk to her. But I thought I was going to be like just interviewed. And so I went, and then she started filling out the papers. And then she said, okay, let's go to your room. I go, I'm sorry, let me get the key to your room. I go, what? She goes, yes. And then I start crying. I go, no. She goes, yeah, let's go. So she took me to the room. And when I entered the room, it was beautiful. Huge, big dressers for my clothes and my own bathroom. My daughter was so happy. She was so happy, and I go, okay. And then she said, I'll be back. So when she came back, she came forward with lots of bags, and she bought like blankets, pillows, towels, hygiene stuff, like big bags. Oh my God, then I started to cry again. She goes, it's okay. I haven't been feeling like this in like 7 years. I'm sorry. I know it seems easy, but without the pathways of hope, there's no way I could make it. And now I have my apartment, my own apartment. I can cook anytime I want to. My kids are really happy. Oh, and I was really able to reunite with my youngest son. He didn't have a job, so Jackie was able to find him a job too. And we have reunited, and we are happy. As soon as she goes to her room, she lies down, she listens to music, she plays her instrument. And she's sharing a lot with her brother. One thing that I will always remember all my whole life, because I have met people from different parts of the world, but I never met anybody like people in the shelter. They go like the extra mile. They take care of the kids, they help the women, they like, what do you need? What do you need? Just tell me. Everything is free. Are you serious? Everything is free? Everything. Don't spend anything. Go to the food pantry. And then Jackie also told me, just let me know. Whatever you need, let me know, and we'll see what we can. We'll find a resource. Oh, I wake up, I thank God for the place I am. I thank God for Pathways of Hope. That there's somebody who cares about people, not like numbers or grants or money. They really care about people. And I go to work, and then when I'm getting ready to go, hey, I'm going home. Just the fact of opening the door to my home, you don't know what it's like to me. My daughter said too, before we get to the shelter, she told me, man, how long has it been since we haven't been home? And now we are home. Have passion for is taking care of older people, and I'm trying to get my CNA to work as a caregiver. That's like something that I want to do the rest of my life. Pathways of Hope inspire me to keep going. That I know that somebody there that cares about me, and they want me to pursue a dream. It's like I said, it's like I got a new family with Pathways of Hope, big family. And for the people who support Pathways of Hope, my big thank from the bottom of my heart, because like I said before, I not only found a home, but I found a family who really cares. Thank you for your great stuff and for your support, for support so many families.
Letitia's Voice is just one of over 250 that we helped through our shelter program access and get and retain permanent housing in 2018. So this is not a unique story to us. While everyone's story is different, the story of homelessness amongst families, the causes of it, and and where we're at with it in terms of the access to services we have and what ends homelessness is something I think we understand. But we have some challenges, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what those are. First, let's talk about why Letitia was helped and how that worked. So Pathways of Hope is a leadership agency in a group called the Family Solutions Collaborative. This group started about 5 years ago, and it was originally family homelessness service providers that came together to say, we know we, individually as institutions in this community, cannot solve family homelessness. Why don't we try doing it together? And so this group of agencies said, we are going to each leverage our respective expertise in particular areas, assets that we hold. For instance, Pathways of Hope does shelter. Not everyone does shelter. Some people are more aligned with permanent housing work, which we all should be, but that's what they're more into. And why don't we leverage these things, our expertise and our geographic locations, to try to build a network of agencies that really made sense to address the multi-layered issues of family homelessness. So as you see here, we are one of the leadership agencies as part of this group, along with Families Forward, South County Outreach, Mercy House. They're all very familiar names to most of you in the room. I'm really happy to say Carrie and Haley from His House are actually here today. They're one of our partners. Wave hi, it's okay. They're one of our partner agencies. We're really appreciative that they're here and appreciative of the work that they do with us in this collaboration. So how does this collaboration work? Well, it's kind of, I hope you can see this okay. It's not as complicated as this might look on its face. I think if you're a service provider, you see things like this and you go, yeah, I've seen this a million times. But for people who aren't familiar with how these systems work, this can look a little complicated, but I'll just break it down to you very simply. For the Pathways of Hope context and perspective on this, we provide an access point, which is our hub of hope, located in Richmond Park, up on Ford Street, behind Richmond Elementary. That is a place where if a family or an individual is homeless in the community, they can walk into, make an appointment, or just get access to someone there that can help assess them for housing and find a way for them to create a plan to get out of homelessness or prevent homelessness and either retain their permanent housing or access their permanent housing. Now that can look like a lot of different things. That's where the stories do get different. For Leticia, it was getting into shelter first, spending some time there, and then working with a case manager on permanent housing, which is great. Some people have different levels of needs, and what the Family Solutions Collaborative really does is try to address each of those needs and provide the right housing intervention for different folks. One of the things we know about some of the homeless families we still have in Orange County that still need services, that are still homeless, a lot of the times they're larger size, so we're talking about families that are 7 or 8 people to a household, where there may only be one parent, so we're talking about 6 or 7 kids. Or they might have grandma or grandpa staying with them, or another adult family member. And those larger families are really complicated for us to house because of the cost of housing on large apartments. The other thing is that when we have families that have disabilities, we need an intervention called permanent supportive housing, which a lot of our long-term friends know what that is. And access to those resources is limited too. So it's not all easy, it's not all clean and neat, and people like Letitia don't just come through the front door one day and come out the other end like it's a car wash and they're permanently housed. There's a long, complicated road for each of these stories to travel, but with this collaborative effort, we're making a lot of progress in not duplicating services as much, with using each other's expertise, with just working in a more communicative manner. There's access points all over the county. Pathways of Hope is just one of them up in the north region of the county. But it's working and it's effective. So that's a little bit about what's going on in family homelessness right now. But what I also want to talk about is a little bit about what's going on in singles homelessness. So who here has read articles about the point in time count recently? Raise your hand. Yeah, almost everybody, right? If you show even a passing interest in homelessness at this point in this community, you've heard about the point in time and you know that we have at least 7,000 people that are homeless on every single night of the week in Orange County. Now, this number is now actually up for debate. Cal Optima came out last week and said, we actually think it's 10,000 people. Either way, it's a number that is far too high, and the systemic issues that are causing this are very big. So let's talk about a couple of those. So Los Angeles, our neighbors just to the north, we're going to talk a little bit about the comparables here. So Los Angeles, their point in time numbers came out last week, and they're claiming they have 59,000 homeless, which obviously is much larger than us. They're only a county 3 times our size too, so proportionally they are even larger than we are in terms of the homeless problem. One thing that they have very much in common with us is that last bullet point. And it says Orange County is up 42%, which is true, partially based on a change in methodology of our count. But I think the last bullet point here is really important. Angelinos need to make $47.52 an hour to afford the median rent price apartment in the city. I'm going to come back to this, but I want that to stick with you a little bit. $47.52 to afford the median apartment. Not a luxury apartment, not a home purchase, the median apartment price. So what are people doing? Well, they're doing things like this. 16,000 people in Los Angeles now live in cars, vans, and RVs, but safe parking programs remain elusive. It's a significant problem. We don't know what this number is in Orange County, but we suspect it's pretty high. I can't go anywhere without seeing an RV that I know at least one person lives in, if not two, if not children. So what are we going to do? Well, I go back to that 4752 number, and I think a lot about housing. And I think a lot about the fact that we know from the UCI study conducted a couple years ago now, we know from other markets, other jurisdictions that are comparable to Orange County and LA in housing prices, that we have a housing crisis on our hands that is very significant. And it's affecting everyone at every level. There are people who are rent burdened that are making a significant amount of money, but because of the supply of apartments and the cost coming together in such a almost obtrusive way, it's creating a lot of issues for people. So people are calling for a lot of different methods to try to figure out how to deal with this issue. If family homelessness is driven partially by people not being able to afford their rent, then some people think one option could be rent control. Another option could have been SB 50. So SB 50 was a bill, it still is a bill, it still exists, right Chris? I mean, it still exists, right, in some form. That would allow for people to build housing near transit locations. So or in Fullerton here, we have the train station right down the street here. We, with SB 50, would have had a great opportunity to build some high-density housing near transit so people could commute to and from jobs. You know, if you're someone that wanted to work in LA your whole life, but you couldn't afford to live there or didn't want to make that drive, but you wanted to live in Fullerton, that would be a great opportunity for you, okay? And with, but SB 50, which also had another caveat in it, which is, I can't remember the name of the bill, but it allowed for people to build four apartment units on their own property, was another amendment to the bill, was all defeated. They said it was the May massacre of California housing bills. I want to focus on something here. Democrats hold a supermajority but fail to exercise any of the power to fix the housing crisis. If there's anything I know for sure about the housing crisis, it is a bipartisan issue. And the time for fighting over it is done. What's needed to solve it is leadership. And a serious look at what is going on with housing and how it is going to affect our state for generations. So, I'm going to leave it at that. I am going to just kind of set that context. We're going to talk a little bit more about some complications with housing in a little bit. But right now, I want to introduce somebody who I had the opportunity to meet 2 years ago when I applied for this job and interviewed for it. Eric Azaria is a guy who, you know, I think when you think about people who are really important, pillars in the community, titans of the community, people who really do so much, do it kind of quietly and behind the scenes, but really care so much about the people they're surrounded by, that they really don't care about accolades, they don't care about praise, maybe that stuff's not as important to them, but getting a job done that serves the people that are around them is important to them. And when I think about Eric, I always think about his quiet style. He's kind of calculating, right? Kind of thinking behind the scenes about what could come next. And I think that's great, because a guy like me sometimes needs that, right? So I'm going to introduce Eric up here, who's going to talk to the crowd for a minute and with an announcement.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome again to our festivities. You're going to be getting a lot of important facts, and hopefully some of it will stick. And but what's really important is the people. That's what really makes the difference. It's not, you know, Letitia's one story, but there are many, many stories, and that I, for one, can speak to, having been with Pathways for many, many years. So you are making a difference, and that's really, really important to our pretty massive problem. So welcome again. A bit about my long association with Pathways. I've began volunteering for Pathways of Hope over 20 years ago. So it's been a while. And in those days, they were still called Fullerton Interfaith Emergency Services. I started out making sandwiches for the homeless, then was involved in our rotational shelter program. In those days, it was called the Interfaith Shelter Network. The Crop Walk, and also serving dinners at St. Andrew's Church. You know, they have a weekly program where they prepare a hot meal and actually serve it. And that really gave me an opportunity to get to know many of those people. Because when you're sitting at a table with people that you're dining with, it does give you an opportunity to get to know many of them. And I was just amazed that many of the people who were there were just, they were just like us. They were just one step removed from being homeless. There was a guy who was an engineer, and he had had troubles over the time. He'd fallen out of work, and then the work led him to drinking, and one thing led to another. So he ended up without a family and without a home. And it's just people like that who really make a difference. I've served on the board of directors, and then I moved to vice president, thanks to this young lady there, Bob Jennings, and have been the chairman of the board since 2015. I have seen firsthand how this agency has grown and expanded its services. It's really a challenge to deal with homelessness as a big issue. Is this on? Yeah. And it's a big issue, but it has to be broken down. And as David had mentioned, that people really have to step up and deal with it. I have some news that I need to share with you. In December, later this year, I will be retiring from the board of directors, and mainly because of health issues. So that's my news today. In my time serving with this organization, I've seen Pathways grow and change dramatically. When I first joined the board, we were mainly operating our local shelter and the New Vista. I still remember years ago, I guess it's kind of going in and out, but anyway, I still remember years ago when we had the opportunity to expand our services by acquiring the Via Esperanza shelter in Anaheim, and later by building Hope's Corner. These were landmark challenges, but we took the leap of faith, and God willing, it really worked out. So, but we really didn't know. We sat around on the board and looked at each other, and we said, can we do this? And we did. God willing, it worked out. Our success with these programs has paved the way for new programs and more services for people in our community who are struggling, such as our new housing navigation access point operating out of Hope. Our fight to educate the community about the real value, and David's going to be talking about that later, about permanent supportive housing. Because if you get people off the street and into a home, that makes a big difference. And our launch of exciting new programs born out of collaborative leadership programs, like the program that David will be telling you about soon. I am proud of the part I might have played in each and every one of these achievements, and I am so grateful to you, all of our dedicated supporters, for making such an expansion of our programs possible. I know that when I retire at the end of this year, I will be leaving the agency in good hands, even as I took over from Bob Jennings several years ago, our dynamic former president and leader. It's no secret that I believe that David is the right leader at the right time. God does provide to lead Pathways of Hope to even greater success. And David will have a great partner in Tom Pankov, who has heretofore served as our board treasurer, and he's done a terrific job, and is now stepping into the role of vice chair of the board. So we've had to do some shuffling. Tom has a great depth of experience and is a great strategic thinker who knows how to get the job done. He will assume the board chairmanship on my departure. I will be working closely with Tom and David over the course of the year to ensure a smooth and successful transition of leadership. I am so grateful for the tremendous support of our board of directors. If you serve with me on the board, could you please stand for a moment? These men and women truly exemplify the passion and compassion that founded our agency almost 50 years ago and continue to sustain it today. Thank you, Board of Directors, for supporting me during our time together. It has been my pleasure. Though our organization has changed dramatically since I first joined FI's Pathways of Hope, there is one thing that remains as true today as it was when the agency was first formed in 1975. Pathways of Hope, its board, its staff, its volunteers, its donors, all the advocates, everyone truly and really cares about the people that we serve. And as I look around this room and see your faces, you who make our work possible, I know that at the end of the year, I will leave our legacy in the hands of driven and compassionate people who will carry on Pathways of Hope's mission to end hunger and homelessness, at least in North Orange County. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for taking the leap of faith so often over the years to make things happen. Thank you for loving and caring for our neighbors who are in need. God bless you.
Well, it doesn't seem to be working here. Is it working? Yes. There, that's better. Okay. Well, hopefully it won't singe your ears right now. I did want to share a few things about Eric because he has been on the board since 2005, 14 years. And for any of you who have been on lengthy terms, on a volunteer basis, no less. That is just an amazing story to be told. And we did have a couple of real challenges the last 4 years when Eric was board chair. A lot of it due to Barb setting up the growth that we've experienced. And so Eric had to preside over some real challenging growth activities that we did. He described them, I won't go into detail. But I think the other thing that people don't realize is we also went through 2 executive directors. We're now on our 3rd executive director in 4 years. So David, we hope you stick around for at least a little bit. But I think as you heard, Eric has been a passionate advocate for those people in need, for those who are hungry and experiencing homelessness. And as a fellow board member, I just really want to tell him how thankful I am for his participation, his support, and his commitment to Pathways over these last 14 years, as well as on behalf of the entire board, I want to thank him for that effort. So Eric, thank you very much. For those of you who don't know me, you probably know my wife better, Carol. How many of you know Carol, right? Yeah, most of you do. So I'm not going to go into a lengthy history of myself, but we do have deep roots in Fullerton, and you should be aware that your Fullerton Interfaith and Pathways of Hope is in very good hands. I think what you heard from David, though, was the challenges that are out there, and where do we go from here with this organization? So we have a couple of challenges here. First, internally, because not only has has Eric announced his resignation, but our prior vice chair, Deborah Pember, also announced her resignation, so we have a little bit of a leadership void that we need to fill. So I'm stepping into that one role, but we also have to backfill into some other roles. So in addition to that, we want to make sure that our board is much more representative of the entire communities that we serve. Pathways, as you all know, was formed originally as Fullerton Interfaith Emergency Services, and the board was largely comprised of people that came from those religious institutions. Over the past 10 years, we've made some real progress in changing that without really impairing the legacy, because that's a very important legacy to us that would come from that history. But we want our board to represent the entire community that we serve. That's extremely important as we look out into the new ventures that we have. And I really believe our future success will be as collaborative ventures with many of the stakeholders who are in this room today. It won't be just as kind of the old days. It'll be really sharing those successes and those opportunities. And I'll bring one last thing. David mentioned what I believe is a crisis that extends far beyond homelessness and hunger. Those are the symptoms of a broader society issue. But with crises come opportunities. And we're seeing many, many opportunities come now our way that really are a result of Pathways' reputation and a stellar reputation in the community. So we have an opportunity, but we have to be very diligent and very thoughtful about how we use our resources, which are all coming from all of you, and make sure that we do them to achieve the best success that we can. Well, as we start reconstituting our board, I want to introduce our first new member of the board, and his name is Tim Houchin. Tim has a very wonderful story. I hope he shares some of that about his life. And one of the things that Tim brings to our board that I don't, and I think many of others do, is I've never experienced homelessness. Have I even slept in my car one night? Maybe, I don't know, maybe 50 years ago or something. But we don't necessarily have those same experiences that Tim has experienced. And that brings a vision and a view of the world that is really helpful to a board as we're trying to make really difficult decisions. And Tim, as well, is a very strong advocate for the homeless in the community. If you read his resume, it's very impressive. And we look forward to having some great times with Tim. So Tim, welcome aboard.
I was homeless at the Civic Center in Santa Ana between 2011 and 2015. At that time, that was before there was a lot of people from Riverbed and all that. That was Orange County Skid Row. And so there was about 300 or 400 of us out there, and it was considered the worst of the worst in Orange County out there. But it was a community, and a lot of people don't realize that homeless people make communities. They rely on each other for certain things, and they depend on each other. Anyways, while I was at Civic Center homeless, I was struggling with some issues of drug abuse. I got consistently worse after I became homeless. I really didn't have much of a problem at all before. I was just kind of new to it. But with the time and the opportunity to kill, some bad feelings during that time led to my further drug abuse. I was kind of going downhill. So I wanted to get away from that. I was in counseling, and they told me you got to get away from people to do it. You got to not go to the places where you do it. Stay away from people to do it. So that's kind of hard when I'm homeless. So I was sleeping at the Civic Center, right across the street from, or across the not the street, but across the walk from the Orange County Law Library, and that's where I started spending my days away from people and away from the rest of the places. So I started educating myself about everything that there is to know about homelessness. Found out there were laws actually about homelessness and so forth. So, next thing you know, we were, myself and some of the others there at the Civic Center put together a group called the Civic Center Roundtable, and that's when we started addressing some of the issues. Every week we would meet and discuss the needs, welfare, and the concerns of people that were in the homeless community there. Not long after that, we were speaking at Board of Supervisors, City Council meetings, all kinds of stuff, and we turned some things around. The judges in the courts would no longer honor the citations for camping citations from the city of Santa Ana because we actually drugged the guys that got written up to court. We wake them up in the morning and we take them to the courthouse, and the judges would throw the cases out. If not, they go to a warrant, then the guys get in more trouble. So we just continue that cycle of criminality that keeps people from becoming, being able to exit from homelessness. So anyways, we did that and a few other things, and major success, but it got me started as an advocate. In about 2015, I was placed in the permanent supportive housing. I had some issues with my health, and it was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. Didn't ever expect that I would have an apartment of my own again. Never thought it would happen. Even when the first day that I got my apartment was very close to the Civic Center at that time, and I left with all my stuff, and I went to my apartment, and I just kind of looked around, and I said, wow. I said, when I shut the door, I couldn't believe how quiet it was. And I expected at any moment someone would come crashing through there, if you ever lived in a homeless encampment or been around one, it's totally noisy all the time. You never know when there's going to be an act of violence committed against you or the person next to you at any moment. But to be safe, to have to be locked inside of this apartment and have 4 walls was just incredible. And so I had an empty refrigerator. My plan was to go get it filled up and make something to eat. I couldn't do it. I just sat there in the corner and just looked at everything going, wow. And I fell asleep that way for the first time. But I was prepared the best night's sleep I ever got. Anyways, I just wanted to tell you that story because permanent supportive housing is something that is very passionate about. I think that there's a lot of people that can help. I know there's still a lot of people out there that need that kind of opportunity that I was given. So I feel compelled to be a part of that. Make sure that my experience is one that is effective in being able to create opportunities for other people to be housed as well. So I'd like to thank you for the board for bringing me on as a board member, and I hope that I can make some kind of a difference, and I hope that I will do the work that you at Pathways will be successful in the future. So thank you very much.
So we at at Pathways cultivate a culture of acknowledging the hard work and accomplishment of our team members. This is the right forum for us to take the opportunity to highlight one of our most hardworking team member. What makes it extra special is the process for selecting the person to get this award of Employee of the Year was all the staff members had an opportunity to vote, and then the executive committee got the chance to review the votes, and we arrived at the next person that I'm about to introduce, who is the rightful representation and ambassador of Pathways of Hope. Yvette Trujillo is our case manager at the Anaheim Emergency Shelter. We really appreciate the effort and time that she has put into the role in the past 1 year, while also balancing and pursuing a master's in social work degree. For the ones who've done that, it's amazing. This award is to recognize Yvette's excellent performance. We want you to know, Yvette, that because of your hard work, the organization has increased in its capacity to help more families escape homelessness. We thank you for your sincerity, perseverance, and diligence in all the tasks that you've undertaken. And I personally admire your craving for perfection, your communication skills, and your humble behavior with everyone around. It is with great pleasure that I'd like to invite and present an award along with David to Yvette Trujillo. Would like to say a few words?
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I am honored to receive this recognition, and I'm really grateful for the award. I do want to thank Nishta and my supervisor, Sarah, for all their support and the guidance that they've offered me throughout this whole year. But ultimately, it's my clients that motivate me and inspire me to do what I do daily, and I'm humbled if I'm able to even make a slightest impact in their lives throughout their journey. And I am really honored to be part of this amazing team and the program. Thank you.
Photos are always fun. This is yours. May I now invite back David and Dr. Schultz to talk to us about our next adventure.
Thank you, Nishta. So Nishta is now 2 for 2 on her staff getting Employee of the Year. So the rest of our team, Michael, look at you. We got some work to do to catch up. Now our program team is, what makes the impact and all those numbers you see. But all of our teams inside of our work are really, really important. And we look forward to honoring folks from our development department, operations, and everything else in the future. So here's Napoleon Dynamite. Good, it got some laughs. I was worried some of you would go over your heads, but yes, my fellow dancer from 2018's Look Who's Dancing is right here with me, joining me. And only guy taller than me that we hang out with on a regular basis. And we're going to talk about something interesting. So, real quick. So Pathways of Hope, our mission, we lead a community effort to provide access to food, shelter, and housing to those experiencing hunger and homelessness in North Orange County. Now, when I got to Pathways of Hope, I saw a lot of opportunity to do more in housing. And we're seeing more all the time, right? We made a hard push to try to do more permanent supportive housing. By the way, Councilman Czar, we're not done with that yet, so just, hang tight, we're gonna be back. We wanna do more in housing. There's a lot of opportunities to do shelter. A lot of you know there's gonna be a shelter coming online in Placentia, and there's gonna be other opportunities to do more great stuff in the community around housing. But how do you expand your hunger work is a different question. And I spent the first year or so thinking a lot about what could we do to do more with hunger. So at the Hub of Hope, as you saw from Nishta's presentation earlier, we're doing 340,000 meals a year roughly. That's a great number, but we know there is unmet need in the community. Pathways of Hope has expertise, we have leverage, we have ability and relationships to do more, so how can we do it? So we started thinking about some stuff. This is a great picture of a volunteer helping pack bags at the Hub of Hope, some spam if you're interested. But we were looking for the right kind of opportunity, the right kind of partner. Where could we make a big impact with food? That's when I met Greg. I'm gonna let Greg talk a little bit about a problem he's seeing on his college campuses.
Thank you, David. Let's see, I'll get to the.
Oh, you turned it off.
There we go. I was just testing. There we go. Well, as president of Fullerton College, I've had a direct connection to the college since the fall of 1986. At that time, I was a student. So, yes. Go Hornets. Go Hornets. So as you can imagine, we were established as a college in 1913, and over the years, and especially in my understanding of Fullerton College since the mid-'80s, the things that present challenges to our students are different. If I go back just as recent as 10 years, I would say probably the two biggest issues that our students face, the two biggest challenges included not being able to get their classes easily and parking. About classes, it's much easier to get classes today, and the way we're scheduling courses and the availability of courses is no longer a challenge. And with parking, well, it's not completely fixed, but we have acquired an off-site parking lot in Fullerton, and we're shuttling students as a way to mitigate the parking crunch. And I'm really pleased, we've entered a formal agreement with the Orange County Transportation Authority, OCTA, and beginning this fall, every single one of Fullerton College's 22,000 students will in effect have access to the bus system with their student ID. So we're very happy about that. So then, what's the biggest challenge our students face today? You might already know, there have been an increasing number of articles, news features, publications, and reports about higher education and college students and struggling to meet their basic needs. Here's another example. We actually have participated at Fullerton College in a recent study on this. We can go back several years, and thanks to some pioneers on our own campus, we had professors and administrators, Tony Dubois, Adela Lopez, Chris Lamb, who organically started a food pantry on our campus that was open one day a week, and it was a huge help to so many of our students, and that work continues today. Let me forward to a slide, if I could, that has data. So this past fall, as I mentioned, Fullerton College opted in, along with Cypress College, our sister college, and many colleges in the state, to partner with Temple University. They have a Hope Center, and they've done national studies specific to higher education on the challenges that students face related to basic needs. Here's some data I want you to know about Fullerton College as of last fall. So we, at that time, had about 24,000 students. Close to 900 responded to the survey, which isn't bad. That's actually a good response rate, because students get a lot of email. And so the 900 students, we learned these three core things. First of all, half of the survey respondents reported they've been food insecure in the past 30 days. 61% of the survey respondents, our students, reported housing insecurity, and no less than 17% of the survey respondents, our students, reported that they had experienced homelessness within the previous year.
So that's where Dr. Scholes and I started talking. And the idea that we initially had was, well, you're an education institution. This may not be your wheelhouse to help specifically with food and housing. We're not an educational institution, but that is our wheelhouse. Why don't we partner? So I'm very proud to say that about a month ago, the Board of Trustees for the North Orange County Community College District approved a plan we put forward to create food pantry shelters or enhance current food pantry centers or enhance current ones on their 3 college campuses. So we are going to be taking over, Pathways of Hope will be partnering to take over the operations at both Fullerton College and Cypress College for their food pantry programs, and starting a brand new one at the North Orange Continuing Education School, which is where the old Martin Luther Hospital is in Anaheim, where I was born, which is kind of fun. Every time I go back there, I go, what room was I born in? Is that where the pantry's going? I don't even know. But this is very, very exciting for Pathways of Hope, and an amazing opportunity for us to do more in our community with an amazing set of partners. all three of both presidents, Dr. Schilling and obviously Greg, Dr. Schultz here, and Valentina Purell at North Orange County, North Orange Community Education have been amazing in working out with us details on how this will work. And essentially, we're going to be staffing a person at each of these sites that is not someone that is just going to hand out food, but they're actually going to do assessments with students. They're going to talk to them about their housing challenges, their basic needs challenges, what's going on with them in their community. We're going to be collecting a lot of data on these folks. We need to have a better understanding of what this issue is in totality before we can really take it on. It's going to be managed by our Hub of Hope, so we're going to be doing some staff changes and some shuffling around a little bit, and our hub will kind of serve as the mothership to manage these three particular sites. Initially what we want to do is we want to take our expertise in food distribution and helping with that basic needs service and distribute it out to these three campuses. And the number of students we have the potential to make an impact on is around 60,000 students 80,000 students, I believe, between the three schools, which is a pretty amazing thing. What we want to do is we want to make this go further. We want to take this into the realm of housing. And so when we talk about, there was a slide earlier talking about what Orange Coast is doing. They're building 800 apartment units on their property. Somebody asked earlier about Cypress could potentially, with the kind of arrangement and the space they have, could they do more? These are the questions we're starting to ask, because this problem of housing is not just for the folks that are living on the street. It's not for our friends and our community members that have been homeless persistently for a long time. It is for this population of 16 to 24-year-olds that we call transitional age youth that it is hitting very hard on. And when you think about the potential for these folks, these young people, these people just trying to get on with their lives, get an education and do more as productive adults, not being able to find starting apartments here, not being able to stay stably housed, this kind of program we're thinking can make a very big difference in that work. So, I'm going to turn back over to Dr. Schultz.
Thank you. You might be thinking, well, I hope you're thinking, this is phenomenal. I wish it could have happened before this year, and I wish that too. And I want you to know that as recent as 2 years ago, the way we're funded in education and the way the laws are written, even though we recognize that our students are hungry, and there's adults in the communities that go hungry, we weren't allowed to spend $1 of state funds to buy food to give to our students. It would be considered a gift of public funds, and we'd be violating the law. We began to talk about this, and with the leadership of our Board of Trustees, and I know Trustee McLennan is here, and working with lawmakers in our state like Assemblyman Shercourt Silva, who recognize this as an issue, we began to advocate through the legislative process. And what happened in the last 2 years is we were allowed to have a portion of our funds categorized, and it's called a Hunger-Free Campus Initiative. And if we use those dollars, it's recognized that we can do things like help address the basic needs of some of our students. And so that's a huge help. And so with that allocation, we thought, well, we care deeply about our students, but we don't have the expertise that our friends at Pathways of Hope have, and don't have direct access to the resources that our partners at Pathways of Hope do. So that's why we're so excited. And our entire campus, I'll tell you, is so excited about this partnership. I'll give you one quick example. You mentioned a lot of good things. I don't think I'm repeating, but I mentioned how our food bank had been open on Tuesdays during the regular semester a couple of times today, which is wonderful. With this new partnership, what we're envisioning is being able to open the doors to our food pantry on campus 4 days a week, which is huge. And our faculty and staff and our students are so happy about it. And I just want to thank the Pathways of Hope community and David and the leadership for joining us with this opportunity at Fullerton College, and also at Cypress College, and at North Orange Continuing Education.
And thank you to you and everyone in the district, Molly, thank you too, for trusting us with this. This is great responsibility. We are very much looking forward to the challenge, and I think it's going to be massively successful because we have two partners that have the right ideas in mind and are trying to make a big difference. So thank you, Greg, very much for everything. Okay, we're running a little behind schedule, so we're going to close it up. I do want to do something really quickly. Just one last small reminder. This is Angela, first of all, let me just tell you. And isn't Angela's dog adorable? When you see Angela, what do you think? I think of my aunt. Think of my Aunt Leslie. She looks like my Aunt Leslie. My Aunt Leslie's not with us anymore, but she looks so much like my Aunt Leslie. Same haircut. I think she had a Pomeranian or something too. Just kind of smiling and happy. Angela lived in her car for years and is now permanently housed because we as a community came together to make permanent supportive housing for people that are homeless a priority. And Angela was able to do it. This is Maria and her family. Maria and her family were also homeless and are now permanently housed and still housed in this community. Housing is what ends homelessness. And if there's anything you take away from today, aside from just the food program, aside from the great meal you had, thank you Matador for that, aside from the exciting changes that we're making, it's we need more housing. And each one of you, all 50 of you, go away from this event as advocates for Pathways of Hope, yes, but more importantly our mission, which is to end hunger and homelessness in North Orange County. And that is done with housing, strong partnerships, community conversations. So I'd encourage you to all take that away today with you. Thank you.